Thanks. Yeah, welcome back after lunch. Everybody get something to eat, or are you not started yet? Doesn't look like you guys are too hungover, really. So, the hungover people are still sleeping, maybe. But yeah, so this slide's not going to help with anybody that's hungover. You see those sweet graphics. I made those. Before we really start, mandatory disclaimer. This is my stuff. This is really difficult to do a disclaimer because I don't know what to put in one. But yeah, don't do stupid stuff with anything I say, and it may not be accurate. I don't know. We'll cover this. We're here to talk about phone stuff, more specifically on the voice over IP and more modern phone systems. I've talked before on the history with Patrick, so we're not going to go. There will be a few slides of history, but that's going to be, I'm going to try and keep it to a minimum, not repeat myself and bore you. Yeah, and then we go on the how to test, focusing on, like, if somebody says, I need to test my phone system, I'm going to give you a phone number, can you test it? But there's going to be some overlap when I try and map the vulnerabilities to the OWASP top 10, because people are familiar with that. But it will be loosely mapped because it doesn't quite relate, probably. And then there'll be some fun tricks, stuff that I've worked on. The slides aren't on GitHub or SlideShare at the moment, but I will put them up at some point. So you kind of covered this. This is about me. It's acronym soup, kind of that. I have a day job. I really enjoy it. It's basically, I'm on an offensive team, and I get to test stuff. It's really fun. But for outside of work, for fun, I like to ride bicycles. I did a little bit of road biking, but I like riding in the mountains more because now it turns out that trees don't try and run you over, especially in North Carolina. They've, yeah, had some close calls. Yeah, I did a presentation in 2005 here on Wardriving. Anybody see that? You didn't. You weren't here. Two people. I'm sorry. That was probably the worst presentation I've ever given in my entire life. It was like 5 slides. Yeah. Then I did hacking with the iPhone in 2007. That was right when the iPhone came out. DevOps in 2009. And then, 2015, me and Patrick did some phone stuff. Sorry, wrong number, Phony Pony, DerbyCon Vegas. And then getting fishy with it was last year. Did anyone see that? No? Good. It's really the longest I've ever talked about one topic. Normally I'm like, what do I want to look at? Because there's so much stuff to do with phone systems that you can just keep going and going. There's so much to learn. And I find it really interesting. So this slide, we get some of the buzzword bingo if they're doing it out of the way. I'm an 80s kid, I guess, or is it a 90s kid? We had radio cassettes, VCRs, all that stuff. I don't know what Martin is, but the other 2 TV shows I was familiar with, Fresh Prince and Saved by the Bell. I did ride in cars without airbags or seatbelts, believe it or not. And we didn't have cell phones, or the only thing we had was a telephone or handwritten letters. So maybe that's why I like phones a lot. We didn't have MySpace, Facebook. There's no profiles or likes. So you were as popular as you were in person. It's really had the best of all times, right? I don't know. The 90s kind of sucked. They weren't all that great. Anyone have any good thing about the 90s? No? This is how you played multiplayer games. Anybody do that? So much fun. It's actually a really good time, right? You have to sit next to somebody when you're playing a game. This is how people took selfies. I didn't have that. I wasn't fortunate. I had the Game Boy, but didn't have the funds for the printer. Probably worth more now than it was actually at the time. That's how you block someone. If you had an APT. Unless you had 2 phone lines, then you're just screwed. So, how many people remember their first telephone number? Good number of you. Yeah? Anyone want to tell me what it is? It's a great way of post it on social media, and maybe someone will tell you their first phone number, and you can answer the security question. People kept phone numbers forever, right? It didn't really change, so that's cool. I still remember mine. Who uses telephones? Who doesn't use a telephone? Who doesn't know what a telephone is? I believe you. Anyone else? No. So everybody, right? Every industry uses a telephone of some sort. It did say scary where it said interesting, but I changed it because I don't want to like those are the really interesting industries. Anyone have any other industries that could be relevant? No? Anybody want a Jello shot? If you have some feedback or something, there's Jello out here for the perfect afternoon snack. We can get started now drinking because it's afternoon. So, Smokey, you want one? Mojo will run it back there. You got to contribute or answer questions. Any other industries? Academics. I worked. Yeah, give him one. Why not? Academics is good. Oh, absolutely. That was one of my examples, but I redacted it. Yeah, you can go. But we're going. So here's the history. Exploding the phone. If you're interested in that, read that book and watch the other presentation we gave. Like I said, this is more on a digital side. I don't know how loud this next slide's going to be, so let's give it a shot. Anybody remember that? A lot of people remember that. So I'm not going to... It's the worst sound ever. It makes me cringe. Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah. There you go. So that diagram explains what's going on. And there's no way you're going to be able to read that. Boop. Boop. Yeah. Anybody here? Get off the internet. I need to use the phone. Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah, I grew up with telephones. This is kind of the flowchart timeline of like, the technology I've seen other than the telephone. IRC, ICQ, AIM, all of those came around 96. You had NetMeeting, but who actually really used NetMeeting? I guess people that may have been a little bit older than me. We had 96 SMS, Palm Pilot, Sony Vaio was released, and things kind of started picking up. You had Yahoo Messenger, all of those through, I think Yahoo Messenger added video chat. When was that? I don't know, 2002, so it wasn't down till there that you had video chat, or really, I guess TeamSpeak you could talk. Asterisk isn't really related to that, but it's related to the whole presentation. So 2002 Yahoo Messenger with the video was, I mean, that was 15 years ago, right? So Facebook was released to the public and down there, and in 2007 you got the iPhone. So, say what? The bots took over at 04. So I got a quiz. So prior to the iPhone, what do all of those technologies, I guess even the iPhone, what do all those technologies with the exception of Asterisk have in common? Say what? Yeah, I'll take that. All right, I was thinking, they're all closed source, right? Everybody was trying to do their thing, make money, like the dot-com boom. Anyone know what the first camera phone in 2000 was called? Oh, who made it? No? Yeah, you could just start saying names and you'll get it right eventually. Maybe? Nope. No? Getting closer with Sony and Samsung, it starts with an S. Shh, shh, ah. It's like teaching me how to speak. Sharp made it. So, whoever said that one, you can grab a drink. I know who it was who said communication. Yeah, you got to put your hand up. So, recent history, you've got all of this stuff. Everybody's familiar with this. Screen sharing, live streaming, WhatsApp, Snapchat, Kik, all of that. It's just taken off. Everything's got a camera on it. Everything's recording all the time, like Alexa. You can mess with her if you want. I'm not getting that. Smart mirrors. Well, I don't know why you want a mirror on your, or a camera on your mirror to detect the motion, but some people may be into that. So, terminology. This can be a pop quiz. All right, this POTS, PSTN. These are easy ones. Bingo. All right. You can have a jello show if you want to. You'd be like, no. CO line. CO. There you go. PBX. That's an easy one, hopefully. Yep. DTMF. There you go. Now about some protocols. SIP. There you go. Okay, you guys pay attention. IAX. It's not really used that much anymore. There you go. XMPP. XMPP. That's a mouthful. Anybody? I know you know. Extensible multimedia messaging. I think, maybe. AMI, ARI, this is all asterisk stuff. We just skip that, because we started a bit late. So those are all of them, and if anybody said anything wants to come grab, there's plenty of jello shots left. Yeah, so what do they all do? The protocols obviously facilitate communication. PSTNs all related to the old telephone network. The PBX and asterisk, that's gonna, like when you dial your phone, it's gonna handle the calls. Gateway is just another word for a line out. AGI is the gateway interface, which I've said before, is like the CGI of asterisk. It's like the armpit of asterisk. AMI, ARI, the management interface, that's how you can manage stuff within asterisk. ARI is a RESTful interface, which is kind of more modern gateway interface. And then extensions, does anyone know what extensions are within a PBX? No? So it's not an extension of asterisk, it's like what you dial once you've got a line. 111, whatever. Trunk, dial plan, channels. The channel is the session of a call. So you guys know that. Codecs, I'm not a huge codec nerd. I find them pretty interesting, but that is what it is. People can argue these all day. I'm not going to go into too much detail about them. But the three major ones you need to be worried about or know about is PCM, or I guess 4 A-law, U-law versions of PCM, and then the GSM. Then you got some high-def stuff. Yeah, 1972, 7.11 was approved by the ITUT. 4 acronyms of things. That's on the right of the screen is all of the codecs that I had installed for my asterisk, and there's a ton of them. They all have their own little quirks. So DTMF, it's like dual tone multi-frequency, 2 tones played at once, different frequencies. That's how that works. So you know that when you press number on the phone, beep, that's right. That is what happens. So, why do people run PBXs? You don't have to have somebody sitting there plugging stuff in. You can reduce your costs. Like cheap calling, and you can have your apps within the PBX, like your voicemail may be considered an app, or conferencing, call queues, directories. Basically, people also run them because everybody runs them now, right? Who doesn't have a PBX? With what company? I don't know. Maybe smaller ones. So we go over the anatomy. You got internally deployed, somebody runs their own, externally or cloud deployed, and then third-party managed, like Ring Central or something. Maybe that's one. The basic deployment. I even tried for this. I made diagrams. It's PBX in the center. You have a couple of clients connected to this one. Soft phone, SIP, and then an ATA, which is an analog telephone adapter, which is going to convert your old school telephone. Not the rotary, won't do that, but just a regular telephone will be. So that's pretty common. A bigger deployment for like a business would look kind of like that. You can tell this one's better because it has 2 stacks on the PBX. And there's voicemail, there's maybe SMS thrown in there, video conferencing. You can kind of see the link between the 2 providers, how you can skip through and make calls from one location to the other. Basically, more technology is being added on. Maybe they run a call center or they do other stuff with it. Maybe do reporting on calls and stuff. Maybe they do some mobile stuff. This is what enterprise or large, I found this image. I think this is a Cisco's image, may look like. We're going to spend like an hour on this. No, that's really what it looks like. Nobody knows. They just keep on piling stuff on. Basically more technology. 2-factor auth might be used for that, like somebody's dialing you back for verification on something. I'm not going to read all of those if you want a second. But yeah, just more and more technologies getting piled on top until nobody knows what the diagram looks like or where something sits in the network. So we kind of talk a little bit on how test. So like I said earlier, when someone says, we want to test that phone system, how? The first thing is, what are you actually testing, right? A lot of things test, so determining what you can test is a really good first step. I can't cover everything to do with like voice and phones because there's just so much, but I try and get through some of it. Like mobile, I'm not going to be able to tell you how to tear apart a mobile app and how that works, but never agreed to that. It's crazy talk. I mean, but seriously, you've got hardware, software, the PBX soft phones, apps, protocols. Codecs is its own beast because there's a lot of issues with codecs. Like VLC, if anyone uses that video player, always has a lot of the buffer overflows is going to come through media, the codecs processing those signals. And each type is going to require its own set of skills. And yeah, it's a lot to test. So once you've kind of figured out what you're testing, you decide, is it black box, white box? Like, do you have information, or do you have to go out and do extra work to find stuff? Are you trying to be stealthy? Are you trying to, do OSINT? Are you trying to avoid being detected and see what would happen if you dialed something 10,000 times? You're going to figure out what's out of the limit? Yeah, so there's some other stuff like OSINT. You can grab phone numbers from the web or directories, look for patterns in people's, because sometimes companies are going to buy a block of numbers, maybe. You do port scans to try and find PBXs sent out there. Shodan, you can use it to try and identify MAC addresses, or use the web. Now, use the web is kind of different from web directories, like you're going to a company's website and trying to browse through to find the phone numbers. Like using the web, there's tons of resources that will list people's information. Freecarrierlookup.com will tell you the carrier of a number, so maybe you can use that information. A good source to find a phone number entry point is whois. They list the technical contact's phone number, so there is that. Ooh. Let's see. Let me take a drink. So when you're testing, how do you test, right? You can dial up through POTS with a regular telephone and press buttons. That sounds really exciting and fun. It's just what you want to do is sit there all day pressing buttons. You can use modems with AT commands. Maybe get a little bit more into it, soft phones, any of the major ones. You can use it just like a regular telephone, or you can try some of the automated or scriptable stuff. There's a ton of those out there. There's a steep learning curve to that. SIP JS, JS SIP, MJ SIP, for some of those. I didn't like any of the idea, because those kind of phones tend to go in and out. Some of the older ones aren't maintained anymore or have bugs. So I figured, well, I'd just use a PBX and just write stuff in that. So this is my setup. It's a little, like a Raspberry Pi. Is anyone familiar with the Orange Pis? Anyone seen those? Well, I know the Charlotte guys have, because I've been raving about them. Yeah, it's like a Raspberry Pi, quad core. It's got 2 gigs of RAM, I think 16 gigs of NAND flash on board. It's really portable, giggy, and basically, yeah, it's a good little board. It's portable. You can take it with you somewhere if somebody wants something shiny to look at because you're testing a phone system and you must show them something. You can put it in the box, take it with you, and say, "This is what it's $20. This is what did phone stuff." So, yeah. Because I didn't want to pay for a Raspberry Pi. Nah, it's a friend of mine. They has onboard flash, so you don't need an SD card or anything. The gigabit Ethernet is also separated from the USB bus, so you get a little bit more traffic throughput with it. And yeah, they're really cheap. I think 20, 25, 30 bucks, something like that. And it just seemed one of the things I want to try. So. Yeah, the software is, I use Ambien, which is a derivative Debian, Asterisk, and a bunch of scripting utilities. We're going to get a little bit into that more later. I'll show you some of the other stuff. We go into the issue types. So now we can do, can anybody name the OWASP top 10 off the top of their heads? No? Can anyone name anything from the OWASP top 10? A1. Well, okay, so what's A1? Injection. Hey, you can have a jello shot. I know you want one. A2. Close. Right. broken authentication and session management. And they're on the next slide. Okay, yeah, okay, you get 2 drinks now. That was, that's 2 jello shots for fish. So yeah, this is them. Yeah, they're just coming out with a new one. I'm not sure when it was, but this is 2013. So. Say what? No? He's trolling me back there. Is it out now? When did that come out? Not for release, right? It's a release candidate, yeah. In August, yeah, so everybody goes by 2013 still. Injection, so within a phone system, you've got web, voice, SIP, or DTMF is going to be your injection points, and you're basically going to come up with either cross-site scripting, buffer overflow, or log contaminant. I'm sure there's many other things you can do if you happen to find a valid injection. I really wanted to have, like recently within the past month, Asterisk had a buffer overflow. I would have loved to have demoed, but I'm not good at buffer overflows, and the causes for it was that you have to have this module and this module and this turned on and this. It will take longer to configure it. And yeah, so no demo for that. Broken auth and session management, we've talked about mostly authentication. People not implementing SSL, TLS, or SIP for the transport in general. Yeah, if you're external, there's not really much you can do with that, unless you can get in the middle to do that. What you need to do to be in the middle and capture that traffic. The authorization, I guess, technically would fall into it because it's broken, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But putting things into perspective, TLS was added in 1.6, asterisk 1.6, which was released a really long time ago. People were just really slow to implement that. So, let's see, I'm going to have to speed up a lot. It's cross-site scripting, we know what this is. It could get really interesting with some of the SIP frameworks, SIP.js. If you can make a payload to deploy to somebody which can then connect to their PBX where you figured out where it sits, what it talks, that could be really, really fun. But yeah. Insecure door, direct object references. This was a really hard slide for me to come up with because it's hard to map this to it. But then I got thinking, I mean, other than this been a big disappointment so far, up to 4, not really anything covered. This is what it would look like, right? Somebody doesn't have access to their account. They just, like the Victoria's Secret thing where you could see other people's orders. You could change the order number and see what they had ordered. So this could maybe translate into you dial into a phone system and then you dial an extension that is an external phone number, maybe. So it basically translates into a bag config, or it could be from a gateway interface or from the app configuration. Related to A5, does anyone know what A5 is? We already went over this. 2013. Now? Man, you guys are quiet after lunch. That's a good time.
Well,
so, yeah, that was a great album. That was a great album. So, misconfiguration. This is really common. SIP configured to allow people. That used to be the default where it would say, yeah, anybody can connect, and then just people would misconfigure their dial plans so you could perform calls as anyone sitting in the desk. Mine has once been misconfigured accidentally, and I may have made some calls to some places that I probably shouldn't have. Oops. 4-digit passwords. Yeah, I mean, would you call that a misconfiguration? Probably if you can have like a 10-character password or a 6. Because how many combinations of passwords is there with 4 characters versus 6, or however many you want, an arbitrary length? Default weak passwords for portals, voicemails, SIP clients. A6. These are, you try and see a pattern, everything's kind of related somehow. It's a kind of a convoluted to it. So you got voicemail, conference calls, any of these. I mean, sensitive information is what it is. Credit card numbers, account numbers, verification pins, caller information, that kind of stuff. On system is going to be your logs. Function level access control. So this is interesting. So caller ID spoof. If you've ever called somewhere and spoofed your caller ID, and notice that you've got a different response because your phone number said something different, it's kind of a functional level access control, right? Because you're trusting the call coming in. You're basing your whole trust on a string that can be changed. The other one, user logs in, tries to change username and password, fails, they can try another one. If they can just do that, sit there all day long, I mean, that's a functional level access control because you're not checking saying, hey, this guy's been sitting on my phone line for 10 hours pressing buttons. Yeah. So that's that one. Anyone want any more information on that? I mean, basically, reasonable use rate comes down to that. Just make sure your users dialing in aren't being camping on your phone line. 8.8 is cross-site request forgery. So vendors are going to be more susceptible to this because do they care about their products? Maybe. But are they going to do defenses because, oh, this is internal only, nobody's going to get that kind of thing. But when it's paired with XSS, it's pretty, can have some bad results. We've seen a lot of them recently with like Netgear. Was it Netgear? Like the home routers having that cross-site request forgery where they were basically reconfiguring the routers for people through posting links online. That was great. So yeah, if you did your enumeration properly, it's not going to be difficult to find out who the vendor of a system is. And we get into a situation similar to CSurf a bit later on. So A9, components with known vulnerabilities. Everybody uses these, right? Can't cover every PBX out there, and I did want to have like a really cool chart, but I ended up doing more content instead of making pretty pictures. Yeah, so here's an example of a component with a known vulnerability. That's the ATA we saw earlier. Oh, an ATA. It's made by Cisco. I think it was 2002 that came out. And they still sell them. People still use them. That's what it looks like when you go to the page. Looks like it was made in 96, right? Something like Overbright. That's what it looks like when you log in. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? So it turns out there was a bug list for this where you could bypass the authentication by entering a 1 byte or something character and a post request, and it would just let you in, and then you can reconfigure the ATA to do whatever it wanted. And that's what it looks like when you try and connect with SSL. So that's not cool. That's the, what is that? That's all Cisco's dates on when they stopped selling it. So I can't even see it on this screen, but basically they end of lifed it before they stopped selling it. Is that what I'm seeing? That's weird. Why would you do that? So I'm pretty sure CSurf would work on that portal if you really wanted to target those. But how does it relate? Yeah, it's pretty related. So, anyone remember what CSurf OWASP number was? 2013? Checking to make sure you're paying attention. Oh, come on, it's a jello shot. I've got tons of them. You've got to get up and take them. Close, you can get one just for saying number 9. Just like that. I think it was 8, right? Yeah. Everyone doesn't want those jello shots. So let's go. 10. How long have we got? 20 minutes. We're good. See, I'm doing good on time. Normally I go way too fast. And then I get upset because they finished in 10 minutes. Umbrella, these are really common on the web. Everybody's seen these. People use them to deliver malware and use them to trick people. On a PBX, IBI is maybe trickier. It's going to have a bit more of a higher impact maybe. You do loops, you do tie-ups in functionality, bypass the queues. There's a whole bunch of fraud stuff that can be done. If you ever dialed into a call center and you're waiting on the line, you hear the beep beep, maybe you can use those tones to replay into that next time you call back and you won't have to sit in the line. Maybe. You can do that sometimes. It's very similar to A3, which I didn't write down on my notes what number A3 is, so I guess I should get a jello shot. But my man's sleeping. So another potential vector for this is somebody calls the call center, enters a bad phone number, and the call me back queue dials that phone number, not checking, and it's fraud. So, the bonus slide for the OWASP stuff and the really boring part of the presentation, unless it's all boring, is insufficient anti-automation, and that's related to A5, A6, A10, kind of brute forcing everything. Extensions, voicemail, conference codes, leader codes, accounts, corp directories, passwords, A10, and related to that by long session timeouts for many. I said that already. So this is how I would map it if I was going to map phone systems to the OWASP stuff. And I took a little while thinking about this and trying to go through it. There's no research behind it. I would like to kind of do some more and map what happens with them and see if this matches up. But that would be my take on it. It's totally up for debate, and there probably could be a few moved around. So, anyone have any ideas? Think phone systems, what order they would put it in? Maybe injection could be higher. I don't know. Everybody's bored out of their minds. No ideas, seriously? Okay, that's fair. We can talk about it later. I'll put the slides online, and you can say, no, you're an idiot. This one should go up there, and this one should go down there, because this happened, or something. I know. We should debate it and make a good one. So once you've installed Asterisk, and I haven't got that far on it yet, because every year these conferences kind of sneak up on me for some reason. So I did say made a Vagrant VM. I'm making a Vagrant VM for everybody that kind of takes everything you don't need out of Asterisk and setting it up, because there is so much stuff, like you can configure it, and it's just overwhelming. And try and cut it down to a slimmer version so that you can get in there and like use a soft phone or start scripting. So the console is pretty easy to use. So you can use it like Metasploit or any other console once you got it installed. That's how you show the help, right? Core show help, which is great. That's really fun. But maybe it's just me that I have issues with the interface because I don't understand phone systems that much. But it's pretty difficult to use. So I'm trying to make that easier. So we get to the fun stuff now. So yeah, I have a job and I like it a lot. And I had the opportunity to test our phone system. I was secondary on it. Somebody else picked it up from the queue. And I was getting nowhere with menus sitting there like dialing. I think I did it maybe for an hour or more, and I got really bored of just listening to the same voice over and over. I was really getting nowhere with it. So I had this idea, social engineering was out of scope, so I couldn't do anything, talk to anybody. All I could do is sit there and go through the phone. Beep, boop. I had this idea to write a man-in-the-middle tool and see if it would work. I had no idea if it would work. And there's some pictures and stuff. But I was going to try and, if it worked, there's a grand scheme to see how easy it is for a bad person to target either clients or internal employees, customers, whatever. It's nothing new from an attack perspective. I think I've seen some old hacker movies that may have done the same kind of thing, but I'm trying to do it with more modern systems, like with a computer instead of a tape recorder. Basically, there's two vectors for it. I like to call the first one the fat finger squat, and the second one is the spoof target vish. Yeah, those are the vectors. So the fat finger squat this is how I would do a diagram for it. Like, the bad guy's there, he's the Grim Reaper in this case. I guess that's Grim Reaper, but he's got a telephone on his stuff. And you have this poor guy on the left. I mean, he's got a hook for a hand. He can't dial his phone properly. How's he going to hit the buttons? And he dials the wrong number and goes to the Grim Reaper. But the Grim Reaper's just sitting there, and he's going to create a call to the good guy, this guy originally intended to call, but just sit there and record the line and pass that through. So that was the concept. It worked great in the end, it turns out, because when this guy calls this guy and this guy forwards the call, it forwards the caller ID, so the company didn't know that it wasn't the original guy. Maybe. So I have a little demo of this. We can see if it will work. Maybe. I have a live demo, but then I have a backup plan. So we'll do it live first. We dial my, I'm going to take the aux out, it might pop. We'll do it live. So I'll call my home phone number. Maybe. Home phone number. Is sound on? How loud is this going to be? There we go. See who answers.
Merry Christmas.
That's weird.
Santa Claus, and you reached my North Pole.
So I was going to use a company.
Hi there, I'm not one. Hi there.
I just pressed 5. Probably listening to us at the moment. But it records everything you'd say. I was going to use a company, but I decided not to because it's not fair to target one company. Because, I mean, anybody can do that to any company, so it would just be me being bitter. So the second vector is very similar to the first one, except instead of doing it, waiting for somebody to dial in, you would have somebody actively engaging. Say I wanted to target Anubis in the front row. I'd call him and say, hey, I saw you tweeted about your account and you're having issues, right? And he'd say, oh yeah, thanks for calling. And then basically you do this, you would forward or merge in a call to the call center and say, nothing. You just sit there and say, okay, I'm transferring you to the call center now. You're sitting there recording it, and you can record those tones. I think this diagram kind of explains that. You got your spoof caller ID calling the guy with the hook hand, and he has no idea because it's a guy. Then you're recording. You could even have context, or you could just have no context if you wanted. Yeah. I mean, if you see, you could, I guess, write a bot on Twitter that just waits for people to complain, and you've already harvested their information, so you just go ahead and send them a call. Maybe you could do that. So, yeah, it flashes it in to the call center. How can I help? So, that was the fun I got to have. I have no demo for that because I was trying to, and I was like, how do I do this? I've got so many things going on. But it's pretty much the same as the first vector. So, yeah, it's the same except not a little bit different. So what can you do with that? What would anybody do with that if they were sitting there and have recorded somebody's phone session? Anything? Don't care? Did none of you care? Security questions, bank information, right? Tones. Yeah. So, well, it might contain what we talked about at the beginning, maybe some DTMF. It really depends on the target system, who you're testing, as to what it would contain. So, but generally, you're going to get some kind of voice, some kind of tones or response there. Yeah, from the beginning, what's that sound? What does this look like? That's DTMF. So you can decode that if you use the right codecs and stuff and it comes through properly. I've been having issues with it recently. The first time, it's difficult to set it up, but the first time I set it up, it was working. Then I tried it again and it was a few digits wrong from what I actually entered. But so the reliability is not 100%. I'm kind of working on that to figure out why. Maybe I need a hardware decoder, but I don't know. Maybe it's the software, maybe it's somewhere in between. Got to figure that out. But basically, you can decode the tones, and you have a recording of the voice session. So I guess it's an issue. So I've been working on this for a while. Freak me. Started out kind of as a joke, and then moved into more of stuff. I did a bunch of changes last year. Did a REST API. Well, Patrick wrote the set module, so you could make calls and do social engineering through set, and added a web. There's been not very many changes to this. There's going to be more to come whenever you get time to work on it and people want to actually do stuff and is interested in it. But I want to re-engineer everything, do some more functionality, write some multi-step prompts, because I think that would be cool if you can, when somebody dials in, instead of hanging up. I said that last year that I wanted to do this stuff, but instead I did stuff for work, which was a lot of fun. So I think I can use a lot of this and add those two vectors to it, and I plan on doing that, so people can use those maybe in their engagements if they want to test some phone stuff. There's so many ideas. If anybody has any ideas, would love to hear them. But yeah, that's about, hey, we were right on time. That's about it. So yeah, I'd like to see people from 2600, get back into phone systems, because that's kind of the roots. What I was trying to get at with the whole presentation is the evolution of stuff. You've seen things grow like super quickly, right? At least as far as I'm concerned, like, 97, you're never to get in a stranger's car. Now you summon strangers from the internet and get in their cars. I can't take credit for that. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, phone systems are still relevant. Phone numbers aren't going away, right? Was it Illinois recently had something where people do not want to get rid of their landlines because their medical devices are connected to them. So they may be around for a while. I mean, they've been around this long. So hopefully it was useful, gave you some ideas, stuff. Yeah, I think I covered everything that I promised to cover. Is there any questions or anything? Anyone? No? Jello shot? Questions? No? Man, silence. All right, I didn't have to use this slide. The whole thing? Yeah. How I put that together. There is a project online that's got some stuff, but you want more of a written guide of how Yeah, I should have actually put that in my slides. That was one of the last changes I was going to do. So github.com, and it's just freak me, I believe. We can verify that afterwards, because I really should have included that. But yeah, that's it. Any more questions? Those